Hello, everybody. Happy Monday. Happy the Batman made a lot of money this weekend, Monday. I'm Eric. We've got Kim. We've got Danielle. And we've got a whole mess of the Batman spoilers. This is the full spoiler review. So movie made a lot of money this weekend. I think 134 million domestic, even like double that almost worldwide. But everyone hasn't seen it. So if you haven't seen it and you don't want to be spoiled, you probably should put this episode aside and wait till you see it and then come back and listen to us talk about it. Kim and I have a non-spoiler review up. You can go watch right now. But this is for the spoiler folks, the folks who are all in on that, who've seen it or don't care about spoilers. So 3, 2, 1, full spoiler zone, full spoilers from our mouths and in the chat. It's going to be spoilers all around, guys. So like I said, Kim and I, we've actually already reviewed this movie, so we don't have to go too much into like our overall opinion since it's out there. But Danielle, we haven't spoken to you about this at all. Let me just get your like top line thoughts on the Batman before we jump into like what we thought of the nitty gritty of this all.
Oh, I really liked it. I did. I really liked it. And I went in with zero expectations. And that is what I'm doing now for every movie, like, because it just makes movies better.
Sure.
Yeah, no expectations. I really enjoyed it. I loved the mood. Because for me, this was less of a Batman or any kind of genre movie and more of like a tone poem, and that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Like it was very moody, and it was about like how that went from scene to scene, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. No, it definitely, because it was just like dropping you. I mean, look, I think there's a reason a lot of us are bringing up Seven, because it does have the overall like the rain, constantly raining, and sort of this like
look
vibe.
I'm from Seattle, so the rain, the Nirvana, that was all for me.
Oh yeah.
I'm from the UK, so
yeah, no, exactly. Like London calling, like it's all rain all day, like forget it, that's who we are.
I barely even noticed, you know.
I know, and I saw a bunch of reviews that were like, why is it always raining? I'm like, I'm sorry, do cities not always rain?
I guess I didn't see this for myself, but I saw someone on Twitter say that there is a funny, almost like Easter egg joke of when there's a newscast on about like one of the Riddler's killings, but it has the next 5-day weather in the corner, and it's like rain every day. It's like,
again, talk to me and Kim.
That's just life in Gotham, man.
I thought it was really funny because I did see a couple of reviews where were like, why is it always raining? It's like, that's some cities do that. Anyway.
Yeah, I think I'm very similar to you. You know, I am curious before we go into the spoiler zone, Kim, because you and I both saw it one more time, so we've both now seen it twice. And I came out of it mostly feeling that, you know, the same way. There's a couple things where I think a couple flaws stuck out a bit more to me the second time, but overall, like I really dig this vibe, and this Batman stuck around. But you know, I know you were a little more critical of it. What did you think after your second time seeing it?
Yeah, generally I felt the same way. So, you know, I'd say it was hit and miss for me. But you mentioned you've noticed a couple more flaws. I noticed a couple more positives. One of the things that I tried to convey in our non-spoiler review was that I loved the creative decisions that were made and the symbolism. And there were a couple more moments that I found that I thought were really well done. So.
Mm-hmm. So let's jump in about let's talk about the title character, the Batman here. And because, you know, one thing Matt Reeves said is that he knew that a kind of problem Batman movies had in the past is if you're not doing the origin, Batman can feel he didn't use these words, he was kinder, but how the Batman can feel a little sidelined in his own movies. It's like so much about the villains that it's like Batman doesn't have his own arc as much as reacting to the villains are here, I have to stop them. And that he wanted to rectify that. Have a Batman who's not getting his origin, but still has some stuff to go through. I really thought the movie did a lot on that. Like, I really liked Batman's arc and the whole, like, I'm going to start out the movie saying, on vengeance. And then kind of where he goes, maybe realizing he should shift that a little. But what did you guys think of our Battinson journey within this film?
So I can't track it because I've only seen it once. I don't know if he ever said like I'm Batman.
No, they
Like,
had him
it
do
was-
the I'm vent, like that's his like
Yeah.
he's
well, and that's
vengeance
what
first
and that's what I
foremost.
loved is like everyone was like always, hi vengeance, hi vengeance. And it's like this dude's got little ears. And we're all just like, oh well, he says he's vengeance, it's fine. But if like someone came up to me and they have little ears and they're like, oh hi, I'm vengeance, I'm like, oh, you're a cat. But I did I really gosh, I really enjoyed the way that this version of Batman was played. I really enjoy Robert Pattinson. Like I think that he gets really maligned for work that he did that made him all of the money. So shut up. Because you would have taken the money too. And yeah, I really enjoyed like the work that he did in doing this movie and him being like the vigilante and all that stuff. I don't know, like I really enjoy, and I know that like there's a lot of opinions about well, Bruce Wayne isn't a playboy, he's like a goth boy. Okay.
What I like that it's like the whole idea in this movie is he's barely maintaining Bruce Wayne as an identity, but you feel like by the end of that movie it's going to change, right? It's like maybe
Right,
they'll
like-
bring a little Bruce back, you know.
And he is also, this is what Batman like year 2,
Yeah.
he hasn't learned how to act yet. He hasn't taken the improv classes. He hasn't done Groundlings. He hasn't done Second City. He doesn't know how to not be, oh, I'm Bruce Wayne, still sad, pearls, whatever. Also, can I say that I'm really excited that there were no pearls?
Oh my God, I know. I always joke about, well, no, we've gone too far, although maybe not, when we get the origin story of Martha Wayne's pearl necklace, like the manufacturer, the store.
Oh, it's going to happen.
Right?
And we're not gonna like
If this was Star Wars, we would have had that already.
That's true. That's true.
it would have been like an entire half an hour of a movie.
And the guy be like, this is my masterpiece. I see great things for this necklace.
I said, like, when I do my Bruce Wayne movie, it's just going to be him Scrooge McDucking into a pile of pearls. It was like swimming in it. That's what it's gonna be.
Thank you for the inspiration, Mom.
But yeah, so that was, they did a lot of and they teased at stuff where they called him, blah, 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 Zorro. Like they teased at it without giving us. And that was one thing that I kind of appreciated about this movie was that it acknowledged that we already know this mythos.
Yeah.
So we just get to be in the Batman. And that was something that I really, really appreciated and liked. Like we just get to be Batman.
Yeah, we know the deal.
Sure.
You know,
Yeah, we know how it works. Batman,
Kim,
I am the night. I'm sad. I'm an orphan.
I'm very sad. Darkness, no parents. Kim, what'd you think of his bat journey here and his arc?
Yeah, so I mean, I felt that Pattinson's Bruce is anguish, but not fully rounded for me. For me, he wasn't as interesting a character as Joker in his solo movie, where you found him interesting and you built a complex psychological profile of him as you watched, and we had some empathy with him. And I don't think that this Batman, this Bruce Wayne, was as, I know that the two films are not connected, I'll say that, but I didn't feel that this Bruce Wayne was as complex or as interesting as a character like that. But I really enjoyed his metamorphosis through the film, and there's a symbolic metamorphosis. I talked about liking the symbolism in this film. There's a couple of shots of Pattinson's back, naked back. At the beginning, you see scars on his shoulder blades, and it's kind of almost like he's about to sprout wings, and become the Batman that he wants to be and that we want him to be by the end of the film. And there's another shot where it's even more prominent later on that shows this kind of almost wing sprouting. And of course, angels also have wings, and he becomes, by the end of the film, he wants to help people, and he puts his vengeance dealing behind him. So I enjoyed that. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, it hit home for me, like that, the big moment, of course, being when he lights the way for everyone, literally at the end, and his big final moment is not beating the bad guy who's already been beaten, but saving a bunch of people. And I was like, this is a classic sort of myth making superhero stuff, but I think it landed. It was interesting because I saw this movie opening night at the Chinese, which LA crazy audience of 1,000 people screaming. And they all cheered at the beginning when he goes on vengeance, but then they all cheered when he saved those people with the flare. Oh. It's like, yay, he's a hero now. And I thought that was really sweet.
That third act, it's really interesting to see the reactions to that, because a lot of people are like, I think that we are so trained when it comes to these superhero movies or like genre movies to be like, man, this third act, he gonna kick that dude's butt. And this wasn't a kick that dude's butt third act.
Right.
And that was so refreshing that they're not doing the normal thing that we expect. Because I can't think of how many superhero movies have done that. It's usually like, fight, beat that dude, or Skybeam or whatever. And so the fact that third act was like, I'm just gonna save a bunch of people, to me that felt like revolutionary.
Even I will say, it was a nice refreshing thing that Riddler gets caught and doesn't get out, because we're very trained on the classic, the villain lets himself be caught, but it's all part of his master plan to then get himself free. And he doesn't care that he's caught, but he also doesn't get free. It's like he's still locked up there at the end.
And that's not the point of that act. Yeah. The act isn't like the point of we catch the Riddler. The point of that last bit is we got to save the city. That's so interesting to me.
Yeah, I think the third act is a little strangely paced. I was saying to Ryan before we started, like, I have no issues with 3-hour movies, and some of my favorite movies are 3 hours. This one, there's a little bit of drag for me. And the third act, maybe there's a couple too many endings, but I really like what you're saying, Danielle, that it's like, while we have to defeat those guys who are following the Riddler, it's like Batman's big final moment is this, leading people to safety moment. And I thought that was a nice little refreshing, especially because it's I read some people say, oh, this is kind of subverting superhero movies. I'm like, I don't think it's subverting superhero movies. It's a little bit subverting, like, the audience going in like, yeah, he's gonna kick ass, he's vengeance, by being like, but what, isn't it better if he's not, like, if he's an inspiring hero, And I thought that was
the cool moment before he lights up his red flare. I don't know if you noticed, but the lights were flashing red and blue, and it made me think of the Matrix and the red pill and the blue pill choice. And they stop flashing when he lights his red flare, so he's a red pillar.
Hey, it's Warner Brothers cross media.
Choosing truth and justice.
We love synergy.
Right. There's like a little hidden, like, Matrix Revolutions now on HBO Max. Let's talk a little bit more about Riddler, because we knew going in this was going to be a pretty dark take on him. He is flat out a serial killer from the minute this movie begins. He's not a light and funny Riddler, but I did think it was really interesting as we went on, and it got pretty topical with his online followers and his I have
507.
Yep. I have some like-minded gentlemen. Of course, they're all guys who are going to raise up arms and help me here in Gotham. What'd you think of sort of like not just this take on Riddler, but the ultimate reveal of like the guys that Batman does need to fight in that third act? Danielle.
Oh, Kim.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I thought he was cool. I thought Paul Dano was great. And, for me, throughout most of this film, he's like this Jigsaw-esque villain, he metes out his justice the way Jigsaw does in the Saw franchise, which was cool, but also highlighted one of the flaws for me in this film, in that it wears its influences on its sleeve, but doesn't kind of live up to some of those things that do it better. You got that rat trap thing that he puts the commissioner in. I mean, maybe it's just me, but I would have loved to have seen that in all its gory glory.
That's the R-rated version. I
Yeah,
do think
you go dark, Kim.
I know. Sorry.
No, I get it.
the Seven influence, which was when they find his apartment and it's directly out of Seven down to the like diaries that are incomprehensible. I was like, okay, I have seen this movie before. This is pretty similar. But I did like getting topical with, and I think it's it's an obvious but a smart way to go these days with like especially the Batman villains and how demented they are. That of course he'd have his kind of incel terrible army of followers. What'd you think, Danielle, of the Riddler revelation?
I'm not gonna lie, like that. It just reminded me so much of like the people that yell at you online. And you're like, you have like one follower, and in this, it's like, okay, well, he has like 500, and it turns out they were actual followers, which is like, well, that's not great. But it was his army. I mean, it was interesting to me because it is one of those things where, and I'm not gonna, I have been following, I get really into subcultures and the way that they work, the way that they tick, and going down like these rabbit holes that I maybe shouldn't go down. So I'm not gonna like say names of places where these things happen, but this is 100% something that could happen because there are message boards where you could go where someone could be like, yeah, I'm in Gotham. I look cool. You all like me. I have 500 followers. 12 of you will show up. And it's like, yeah, 12 of us will show up. So that felt like very realistic to me because, but only because like I have this thing where I get really obsessed with subcultures and I'm like, yeah, no, that could happen.
Yeah, I won't get specific since this is not a Scream spoiler chat, but Scream also involved like modern online sort of the dark side of the web and finding like the worst of the worst people sometimes and then them teaming up to be terrible together. So I think it's interesting. It's a place that I think does work within Batman. It wouldn't work with every superhero to do this storyline, but I felt it like sort of fit in the Batverse of it all.
Really very important to bring cling wrap though.
Apparently.
Where was the saran wrap used? I was very curious about that. I never saw the saran wrap.
No, I didn't on first viewing, but second viewing, it was around their heads. I think. I don't know why.
But don't we teach kids that you can't do that?
These guys are psychos.
Well, no, because we teach kids like don't put bags over your heads.
I know. I'm not sure that it went over their faces, but I think it was around their hair. I don't know why.
Okay,
was
it
fair. To keep
DNA
from dropping DNA?
Yeah, maybe. I think that might
makes
be it.
sense.
Yeah. It's like they're trying to be like Dexter, but on the go. Like, keep it all contained.
I was definitely like, what's the I don't see saran wrap. It's
fine. Let's talk about Selina. They never call her Catwoman yet, although they certainly are on the merchandising. And I talked to it's a strange thing with her because she is, obviously Zoe Kravitz is like magnetic presence and you can't keep your eyes off her. And I really thought she was cool in the movie. I did think there was something missing at the end with her. It's like because she had her own little arc as she's trying to get revenge for her friend basically, and we got the big reveal about her dad. I felt like I don't know. It felt like a little like more could have been done there with her by the end. I don't know what it is quite that I was lacking there for me with her character. What did you guys think of Selina's involvement in the story here?
I feel like there is going to be more.
Yeah,
but also, gosh, they had that like Fast 7 ending. I'm spoiling this because I'm going to make this joke in the Honest trailer and I probably won't get in. I think where it's like you're going like the two motorcycles are going up to
parting ways, like,
parting ways.
Like, our paths are going in different directions. Yeah.
I feel like they know what they have in her, and like this is, to me, this feels like this is as a comic book nerdy nerd. This is Batman year 2, right? Like that's what this felt like. And so I do feel like we're eventually going to get like a full-on Catwoman Selina Kyle. Because they know what they have. And like, yo, those two immaculate jawbones, and that chemistry, they're not gonna let that go.
That's the subtitle for the next one, Batman Immaculate Jawbone.
I love that she has a kitty that she put in the on the back of the bike at the end here. Yes. And there was that moment earlier when Batman does a little kind of really subtle kind of you know, he doesn't pet the cats in a. What happened to the other cats as well? There were three.
I think the inference is they're in. They talked about this in the Q&A. I think they're supposed to be all around. There's like we see her put one in, but I think she has them all already. That is a motorcycle of cats. She is.
He kind of goes at one moment to the cats, and you know, it's a really subtle. Not at that end point when he first meets them, I think, and he says, "You've got a lot of cats." Okay. So I felt that Selena, I liked that she had her own kind of arc, but I felt like she was kind of two-dimensional. I agree with you, Eric. There was something missing. She's a woman with daddy issues ultimately, and I said in when we did our non-spoiler review, she gets saved twice by Batman. And that didn't sit well with me. She saves him at
she
one
does
point.
Save him once on the catwalk.
No but he saves her right back, you know. Proper white knight, or black knight.
Dark Knight.
Yeah, Dark Knight. So there's something again that I think there's more that they can do with her. I felt that she was a bit lacking here.
Yeah, but I think, I mean, of course, I definitely agree, Danielle. They're gonna go all in. Like even the fact that it's like he's got an early costume, but she doesn't even have like a cool mask yet. You know, she's just got the. So I hope. Yeah, I just felt like because it's a very long movie, it felt like that's her character could have used like one more rewrite. I feel like to click in a little more. But
we all collectively decided that an hour and a half to 2 hours was the perfect length of a movie. When did we decide that we didn't agree with that? There was no poll.
These epics, man.
None of us were asked. Was it Lord of the Rings?
I mean, certainly that's when you started to see like, hey, these are like just blockbuster movies, and they're
Gone with the Wind. Gone with the Wind was 4 hours.
Gone with the Wind was 4 hours,
right,
but it
did
felt like that was the exception.
But like, yeah, exactly. Like, don't most of them have like a intermission where you can
they did back then
or like something? I come from like plays, so I'm like, okay, cool, 3 hours and an hour and a half in, I'm gonna get to go pee, and like, we don't like it's just like, let's go out to the lobby, like give me something for 15 minutes.
Again, it's funny, like, because I've loved movies like, I loved Endgame, which was 3 hours, but once I'd seen it the first time, I was like, okay, now I know. Now I can pick my pee spots because I'm gonna go see it again. But I gotta know when I can run out.
And you know what? I'm not gonna lie. These movies that are that long, I just watch highlights. I don't watch the whole movie. It's too long. So I'll just like sit there and skip through and be like, this is the scene I want to see. This is the scene I want to see. Whereas if something is like an hour and a half long, I'm like, I'm gonna put that on. It
is funny how refreshing it is now. To see that. I mean, I didn't feel like I wasn't like, this movie to me wasn't like unbearably long,
no.
But it could have been trimmed a bit. Like when I compare it to some of like the other recent comic book movies, even that were pushing 3 hours, this one felt like would have helped a little bit. Speaking of what you could trim, or I don't know, maybe this should have definitely stayed in or not. I'm curious what everyone thinks. I think one of the only true like big spoilers, so we were saying how like the ads for this movie for 2 years of trailers, we'd actually seen a lot of what we knew going in, but they do it. They have that guy in the next cell, and look, we're gonna have 10 million Batmans in our life, and we're gonna have 10 million Jokers, and so they didn't even do the Batman Begins like he's coming. They just did like he's here. Maybe he's not calling himself that yet. That is Barry Keoghan, who at this point most people know from Eternals, playing the gentleman in the next cell. But what did we think of him being in this movie at all? Like, is it like can't we wait for another Joker, or was it like, okay, cool, we're layering in another part of the classic Batman mythos? What'd you guys think of Mr. J?
Well, I mean, in the credits, I think he's called Unseen Arkham Inmate or something like that.
Yeah.
And if you watch Gotham, you know that there was a Joker character that turned out not to be the Joker.
Right.
Yes, Jerome and Jeremiah.
Yeah, exactly. So they could do something like that with him, but it does feel a little bit kind of giving us what we think we want and hooking us in for whatever comes next, I suppose. But it was a cool moment, and it does make me quite excited. Although, you know, I'm lukewarm on this film, it does make me quite excited to see a sequel. What comes next?
Yeah, I feel like I could have done without it, but I also was fine with it because I'm not like, oh, Joker again, because it literally is like he's part of our lives, everyone. Like he's like Joker's just gonna always be there, just like Batman will. And we joked how we're getting 3 Batman in
He's
movies
like
this year.
Kleenex, you know,
I was like,
Q-tips, like it's, you know,
Joker, water, Joker.
Yeah.
What'd you think, Danielle, of them going for it with Joker here?
You know, it was one of those ones where I was like, they're gonna tease a Joker. And then they did. And I don't mind it because the idea that he's already like in Arkham and also really the way that they built up Arkham was dope. Like having that connection and the way that they connected all that stuff and the way that they made sure to connect all that was really good. Like,
the Martha connection.
Yes, like that was already. So when that comes to pass and then those happen, but also, yeah, like it's, you know, people complain like, oh, why are we doing another West Side Story? And it's like, because that's how Broadway musicals are meant to go. They're meant to be from place to place to place. That's how Batman movies are meant to go. They're meant to go from place to place to place to place. So there's always going to be another Batman. There's always going to be another Joker. And you just have to see how that turns out and what you like about it, you know?
Yeah. I was
but I'm not like mad about it. I don't care.
Yeah.
But,
like I only think of it because when I'm like, maybe they could have trimmed 50 minutes off this movie. I'm like, they didn't need that, but it wasn't bad either. It was like, okay. And you know, I feel like the inference at the end of this movie is it's kind of like the new James Bond movies where it kind of took 3 movies for him to become like classic James Bond. So he's year 2 Batman.
Or Spider-Man, yeah.
Oh yeah, same here, right. So they kind of skip the origin because we know it so well, but you still feel at the end of this movie, I'm like, okay, I feel like now we're heading towards Riddler wearing a green suit.
Right.
Like, you know, it's like he's gonna have this conversation with this guy. He'll still be like coming from a much darker place. But it's like,
and then they listen to Lady Gaga or whatever happens.
Right. So he's gonna get advice from his new buddy, who's a little more flamboyant. And he'll probably go in that direction too. And Batman will start kind of, you know, leveling up his gear and maybe, you know, batting out his stuff more and more. So I was totally fine with that. And I will say that new Batmobile was pretty dope. Right?
That whole sequence of the new Batmobile, like when it's like revving up, like when in your thoughts you're like, is this taking too long? Is this taking too long? But like in your like the excitement is like, no, I want to see this forever. Like as it's like revving up and getting ready to like murk a bunch of dudes.
Yeah, I know, Kim, you and I talk about how we really liked just that whole sequence too, that this was like a standout for us, the Batmobile chase scene.
For sure, yeah, it was cool.
And another thing is I definitely agree, you know, as I was watching it again, you know, the Penguin and Colin Farrell bringing like a lot of more levity this movie than it might otherwise have. I laughed a lot on the second time when he goes like when he gets grossed out by the murder scene photo. I was like, I don't want to see that.
Why are you showing me?
Right. I was like, did none of y'all speak Spanish? Do you not know the difference between L and La? That was so funny.
And his glee when he thought he'd beaten Batman in the car chase. He was
right. Because this movie is not humorless. It almost makes me think of like how people, I think, retroactively think of Batman Begins as being humorless, but if you watch it, it's actually, there's a pretty good amount of humor in that movie. This is grimmer than Batman Begins overall, but like Penguin, I think, was well used to be a lighter, especially if you're going to go like super grim dark Riddler, like let us have a fun penguin, right? You know?
Which is wild. Like it's wild how this is the most grim dark one, considering like the influences that the other ones had, like Batman Year One, the Dark Knight Return. You know what I mean? Like considering the influences, like yeah, this was the most grim dark one. And I'm not usually into grim dark, but like I really like this.
You're gonna say something about Kim about the
I was
penguin?
just gonna say about he gets his penguin walk moment when his ankles are tied and he does a waddle, which was nice.
Yeah. They just got to give him something to smoke and a monocle and we're going to the races. Any others like sort of stand out like moments for you, good or bad? Is there something where you're like, oh, that was really cool, or like, oh, I wish they changed this a little bit for either of you?
Well, one of the things that I noticed on the second viewing was I was paying attention to the riddles, the cards that he leaves, the Riddler leaves for Batman, and it felt to me like these were Easter eggs, that there was from your secret friend who was the first one, so reference to the Court of Owls maybe, and then there was one that was I'm mad about you, and it had a mad scientist on the front, so I'm thinking Hugo Strange, and that was cool, and another one was a redhead woman, so that could be one of several women.
There are a few redheaded women in Batman's life.
Yeah, I thought that was a nice touch.
Ryan, if you have any stuff from the chat, let me know. We can start doing that in a couple. Sorry, Danielle.
No.
It's in the script.
Oh, cool.
So in like if you go back to Batman Year One, and this is obviously not the same, but if you go back to Batman Year One, there was like a girl, I think her name was Kitty, that was like Catwoman's like friendy that like she was hanging out with. And so I appreciate when they put that into the movie. And in this one, with Annika, I think it was Annika, they gave her, or them, it felt like they gave them kind of a romantic subplot. I don't go around calling everybody baby in that way.
Oh, I think that was their subtle way. Yeah. Catwoman's bisexual in the comics, and it's one of those things where you do wonder, like, are they ever going to really let one of these main characters?
Yeah.
But I agree with you. I felt that was like a little undercurrent that was there as well.
Well, I mean, I do call people like, but yeah, it was one of those things where it's definitely
she did it a lot.
They felt like it was a love interest. And that was nice.
It did. I totally agree. But there was one moment when she was saying about how young Annika is, and I thought, well, is this a maternal thing instead?
It almost feels like, again, maybe this speaks to what we were saying about Catwoman needed one more rewrite. Like, I feel like maybe we got some rewrites, and maybe in one version she was overtly maternal, in one version it was her lover, and we got this weird mashup, you know?
Oh, almost like a Batman and Robin thing where it's like, how old is Robin supposed to be? Like, why is he seduced by the idea? He's a grown man.
It always depends. I thought with the one thing I will say, one complaint I'll say is I thought the Alfred thing, like they kind of go really big on like faking out that he might die. I did notice the second time you see him throw the bomb away from him, so it's like, okay, he wasn't right next to it. But I actually thought it was really weird, and I know I'm being hypocritical here because I'm saying, oh, maybe it went on a little too long, this movie. But I actually thought it was really weird we never saw Alfred again. After he wakes up and he has his big, like, here's the deal. And it's a nice scene with them in the hospital. I did think it was strange that we never saw him again, never heard about him again. Because I thought, it almost felt like maybe he needed to like lose a leg or something to kind of justify how much they play up like Bruce being in anguish that he might like lose him. But we never hear what happened to him.
I do feel like they kind of hint at it in different movies, but this was the first movie where they really were like, no, like Alfred was a badass before he became a butler.
Yeah.
I feel like this was the first movie where they said that, so I don't mind it because like I want that to come back, Yeah,
he has a line actually I did appreciate where he talks about training him, like specifically that like he was like a big part of like training him to fight, and I thought that was a cool thing there too. I'm glancing into the chat here, some of the stuff we got. Adam Holbert asked, did anyone get Michael Myers vibes from Riddler and Batman in this? I mean I think just the way that we are introduced to Riddler, right? Like he's literally in the shadows just stalking a dude. So yeah, there's some movie serial killer Michael Myers vibes. What you guys think of shadowy Riddler there?
Yeah, I think I what I liked, and they do it a lot because often villain and hero are two sides of the same coin, and that was very much the case here. They drew lots of parallels, and at the beginning, Riddler's looking through binoculars. Michael Myers never used binoculars, but
he's watching, he's stalking.
Stalk people, yeah. And then Batman does it later with Selina. So I liked those parallels.
Stocky Riddler there. Although, as you mentioned, maybe Batman didn't need to watch Selina. He mentioned he watches Selina go into her bedroom and change. It's like, hey dude.
Which is creepy, but not to victim blame. You gotta close them blinds, ladies.
You should close, yeah. She should close her blinds.
Not to victim blame. It is not her fault.
Yeah, but
gotta close them blinds.
Bruce, dude.
Bruce, dude, that's weird.
Yes. One more here from Adam Holbert asking, how do you think the social commentary compared to other Batman related movies? Third act really reminded me of January 6th. I mean, again, these things are never made in a bubble, but I especially think in the past 20 years, because I don't think the 90s Batman movies were really trying for social commentary. But The Dark Knight was so clearly having like a message about privacy and where we were at post 9/11, about like looking into people's like what they were doing and tracking them. So I mean, we talked about this earlier, but I mean, I think it felt appropriate, right? If you're going to come out in 2022 with a Batman movie.
Well, apparently the only people in the Batman movie that were good were Black, which is great. Good for us. We did it.
But we did get.
We're never in movies, but God, we nailed it. Somehow. It's not true. I haven't done the math, but.
Well, hey, Gordon, I mean, like I mentioned this, Danielle, on our non-spoiler review, but it's like, yeah, I thought that was like actually one of my favorite parts of the movie was like Gordon being a buddy to Batman there.
And also challenging Batman. Like, I feel like there are a lot of instances where you have Gordon where he is using Batman as a tool, but never challenging Batman. I feel like this is one of the first ones where he's like, dude, what are you doing? Like, right. Where are we? You know what I mean?
He calls him man a lot, which I thought like in a man, like he's exasperated.
Well, no, exactly. Where it's like he treats him like, yo, like I get it. You got the whole suit and stuff, but you're just a dude. And I really appreciated that about Gordon in this movie episode.
It is an episode because there's a lot of them. Tim, I know you felt like there was a little bit of silliness maybe with sometimes when they're figuring out the riddles. I will say the second time I watched it, one thing that I do think is a little cheesy in this movie is there's some handhelding for the audience that is sometimes a little over the top. The one that stood out to me a lot this time was when they hear the tape of Selina's friend being killed, and Gordon's like, oh, she's being strangled. I'm like, I get it, Jim. Like,
that's the entire movie, though. The entire movie is like an Arkham Asylum game where it's like oh no, like the bad guys or like the goons are like, we gotta get inside this thing, right. And then and the cops are like, Batman, you can't do what you're doing now. That's not, it was very Arkham Asylum goon talk, and I kind of really liked it. Never been to New York, deciding what New York sounded like. Right. I liked it.
What did you think, Kim, of some of the direct talk that they did in this movie?
Oh God, I don't. The whole rat with wings thing was just ridiculous. Oh, maybe it's a penguin. Oh no, maybe it's got to be a pigeon. Oh no, a falcon. A falcon has wings. Right. We got it.
It's you, dude.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I don't think it didn't bother me as much, but yeah, there's just it's mostly the repeating things. There's a couple times where even like the iceberg, like Iceberg Lounge, I'm like, it just seemed like they were holding the audience's hand. I'm like, maybe a little bit less. Let's see. Oh, actually, I think
they're trying to make you figure out what's happening on the heads up display. Like, it's oh, we got to meet the dudes at the Iceberg Lounge, and it's like,
I felt like I should have saved this one for what we just said, because Mr. MB Philip Black says in all caps, "Did you guys get the riddles?" So
I do Wordle, man. That's all I need.
right. I think that's the trickiest thing with these Batman movies, because Batman Forever obviously has some very silly ones too. It's like, we have to write the most brilliant riddles ever, and they never quite nailed that part. They're like,
Well, no, because the riddles have to also serve the story, so
Right.
it can't be like a riddle that's just like a normal riddle, like what's black and white and red all over. It has to be something that serves the story, and we don't know those riddles.
I was very impressed that they leapt to URL from La Rata. Oh, he did it wrong because he's leading us to this website. It's a URL.
That's right, because they do have to have their real life game going on, because I don't know if anyone sat through the closing credits. There's no post-credit scene, but it sends you to that website, which is real, and which is,
which apparently has had some activity today.
Having some activity. You got to set up some future of your franchise there. Raider City Update Channel says that we got to the point of pointing out how unrecognizable Colin Farrell was. No, I mean, I will say, when I saw this movie opening night, one of my friends, it turns out, I think she said she knew this 2 years ago, but had forgotten he played the Penguin. So when the closing credits happened, she went, "What?" It's bizarre. I mean, it is funny on one hand, still being like, couldn't they have gotten a different actor who just looked more like him? But I will say he's really great. So it's like, he does such a good job playing him, right?
Yeah.
He was really good.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Kim.
No, I have nothing more to say other than that. The same. He was really good, and the makeup was brilliant, and he is unrecognizable, and so it worked perfectly.
It was,
but just like also fat people exist.
I know.
But I don't want to nitpick. Like, Colin Farrell was transformative in this role. Like, amazing, really well done, even through all of the makeup, gorgeous, awesome.
He was great.
Fat people exist.
Right. And he didn't go, I mean, look, also I Christian Bale, you always worry he's gonna like destroy himself with all the like the weight gain, weight loss. I would
much rather you just do a bunch of prosthetics.
Right. Yeah.
You don't have to drink ice cream.
You prep for different movies in different ways. Reginald H says, will they stick with more grounded reality and stay away from characters like Man-Bat and other high-end mythological characters? I mean, we can say that Matt Reeves has said that that's where his mind goes. Like, he doesn't see there being a room for those type of characters. Danielle, Kim and I talked about this a little last week. What do you think as far as like, would you want to see Pattinson Batman fight, Clayface and Man-Bat? Do you think that this world could sustain going into the actual like fantasy side of things?
I mean, I think if they do that, it would wind up being something that is very grounded,
Yeah.
Like, it wouldn't wind up being that. And I don't honestly, like, this version of the Batman is the Detective Bat. I don't necessarily want to watch Detective Bat do the fantasy stuff. And they can, you know what? DC is going wild. Do another Batman that does all the crazy stuff.
Give us 10 Batman.
Yeah, give it Batman. A Batman for all seasons. But like, this is like, this is one where I'm like, I want to see Calendar Man. I want to see like more grounded stuff. I'm open to seeing other things, but like, just do that with other Batman. Because it doesn't seem like this fits in. But also, Matt Reeves is a genius, so maybe like, Solomon Grundy born on a Monday is just like,
right.
A sad dude who hates Monday. Oh, now it's just Garfield.
I mean, it's funny because Matt Reeves has obviously given us like really thoughtful, interesting, introspective movies about like talking apes. And
true
War with
story,
Humans.
exactly. Yeah.
I would love to see. I do feel like the Batman movies have been lacking like him fighting those type of characters. Matt Reeves doesn't really want to do that, but the little like, I think you're right though, Danielle. It's like there are ways to figure out for some of them. Some of them maybe it's just going too far, but it's like he brought up specifically himself, like he said, maybe could I figure out the way to do Mr. Freeze that would feel like the grounded version of Mr. Freeze?
I mean, I will say, like, if like in this detective, straight up detective comics, Batman, I think you can do Mr. Freeze, and I want it.
What about you, Kim? How far can they push it and still can kind of maintain this tone?
Yeah, I totally agree. There's a way, I think, of grounding a lot of these characters and making it believable and realistic. Some may be taking it too far, but you know, one of the things I'd love to see, and I spoke about Hugo Strange being teased in this, is him come into it and experiment on some of those Arkham inmates and maybe create some of these villains we're talking about.
Right. Like I think, you know, yeah, you can do like Poison Ivy, eco-terrorist. You probably won't get like giant Venus flytrap,
No.
you know, bursting through the ground. But you know, they can figure it out. But I do like, because I like Matt Reeves a lot, like I am hopeful for how he'll kind of figure that out, you know, and sort of thread that needle. Guys, I think we'll bring this to a close here. Those are our The Batman thoughts. But you know, like, because we've joked many times, there'll be more there's at least 2 movie Batman coming this year and The Flash for us to talk about. So it's always Bat time here in our world. Any final thoughts, guys, about anything like you? I'll just say, what's like one thing you want to see in the next one, like that you'd like to see them put into the next movie of the series?
I mean, I already said Hugo Strange, so I'm going with that. And some experimentation.
Gosh, I don't know if it's connected. It's not going to be, but I would like to see a little Batgirl. It's not connected. It's a different series. But
right.
It'd be cute.
It's funny, the thing I'd be excited to see, I think we're going to get first on an HBO Max series, which is like, the Penguin sort of ascension, you know, because like they purposely introduced him as like mid-level guy here working for Falcone. But so we're clearly, you know, it's like they're giving him his own show to sort of tell that story. So but then I think it'd be kind of cool if he cycles back into the Batman sequel and now he's kind of ruling the roost.
Well, I want the Long Halloween. Like if we're
doing, well, you know,
if we're pie in the sky, I want the Long Halloween.
I'm with you on the calendar, man. Guys, thank you for joining us for the Batman spoiler chat. We'll have plenty more here at Fandom this week and beyond. Take care, guys. Bye.